timing, Gauri, like you said, is of course going to favor them. With me in the digital newsroom is historian Professor Vipul Singh. So I want to come to you first. Just take us through how many times there has been a narrative and a counter-narrative to this particular... There have been studies that have shown that this structure is man-made, and then there have been studies that have in fact shown that it is natural. Could you just take us through, what history has shown about this controversy?
See, I'm not questioning that whether this Ram Setu is the same Ram Setu which Ramayana mentions. As a practitioner of history, what I know is that how Ramayana has become so popular in people's mind and, in people's memory. That's one thing. The other thing is that if you look at the Ramayana and the Ramayana story and all the descriptions of Ramayana, and if you compare these descriptions with the settlement that have been found in the archaeological excavations in Ayodhya, the birthplace of Rama, then it belongs to some roughly around 700 BCE. Now, this new science trailer suggests that this stone, the floating stone that has been found in the Ram Setu, is of 7,000 years ago.
All right, that's a whole new dimension that has been brought in by the historian on the digital desk, saying that, well, who can really conclusively prove that it's the same Ram Setu that was actually built by Lord Ram, because the timing is completely different. We've got S.K. Datta with me here in the studio. We've also got a representative from the RSS's women's wing, that is Professor Malhotra. Professor Malhotra, I want to come to you first. In fact, let me start with S.K. Datta. S.K. Datta, the question I want to ask you is, of course, this is great timing as far as BJP is concerned, but this once again just reignites the debate. We are nowhere closer to really say something more conclusively, as the historian was telling Rishika.
No, I think we have come more or less to a kind of a conclusion now in relation to Ram Setu, or the Adams Bridge, as the English used to call. I cite you a few scientific examples to prove the point. Like NASA had previously said that, the rocks which are present there, it's mostly sandbanks, and together with that, it could be of coral reef origin, or it could be pumice. Pumice is a kind of a rock which actually forms after volcanic eruption. When the lava, the molten lava comes up and it gets all of a sudden connected with water, it comes in contact with water, it immediately condenses, and the bubbles, the air bubbles inside, solidifies in such a way that the rock becomes very, very light, and it actually floats in water. So that was the first argument which was given by NASA. When that did not, suffix up to a conclusive level, or it could not prove beyond a conclusion, then they came up with another argument saying that coral reefs could have been the formation. But in that area, there is no coral reefs as such, So that was also negated, that argument. Now, during the time of the tsunami, several rocks were washed around the Rameshwaram area. And those rocks are not pumice, they are black in color.
All right, so what you're saying is that this is as conclusive proof as it gets to really support what Professor Malhotra also is going to be seconding on the show. Prerna Malhotra, this is something that the RSS has all along been saying. The right-wing outfits have all along been saying this. This is a vindication of your stance, isn't it?
Yes, Ram Setu is a reality, and it has been established now by NASA. So the problem with the left historians is that they still have they would systematically ridicule anything which is related to Hinduism or anything related to Hindu symbols and Hindu pride to suit their political needs. They propagate lies in such a way that they term themselves as warriors, and they term this news as fake news, or they won't consider it convincing. So they function with a kind of agenda in their minds. The problem with historians is that they don't work neutrally as
Okay.
neutral historical scientists.
All
I
right,
would
so your
like to
stance
give a
is
few
vindicated.
examples.
This should be a day for you to, of course, revel, so to say, in these revelations. As we say, the show is called Connect. It's all about connecting with our audiences on Facebook, Twitter and WhatsApp. The number is flashing on our screens. Let's quickly take in the set of comments coming in on our social media platforms. First up, Facebook comments. We've got some comments coming in saying, fools won't believe what's in front of their mind. Myth just doesn't appear in clouds. Okay, we don't need scientists to tell us that it's written in Ramayana. They now learning things from our Hindu scriptures. Okay, more comments. Congress should take a categorical stance if Hindu Puran are in fact myth. Okay, that's going a step further. This is a very strong slap on the face of anti-Hindu Congress, which has invested 70 years to make Hindus weak in India. Okay, in fact, that is a question I want to take across to Mr. Datta. SK Datta, respond to how the Congress stance has been. Today, of course, they are far more ambivalent because of the revelations that have come in. But in the past, their government did file an affidavit in the Supreme Court which said, well, that Ram Setu cannot be conclusively to be proven to be a fact of history. We cannot go ahead and say that. The backdrop, of course, was the Setu Samudram project. But the fact is, this really does put Congress in the dock.
Yes, it does put Congress and the UPA into dock in relation to this. And if you remember, they had filed in an affidavit in the Supreme Court because their intention was to destroy the Ram Setu. And I know what was the reason behind that. It is because of the presence of monazite sands, which actually has huge quantity of thorium in it. You know, so it was because of that pressure from the nuclear lobby who wanted to earn in a lot of money, quick money. There was this attempt to destroy this natural bridge, you know, or the man-made bridge between India's Rameshwaram and the Gulf of Mannar of Sri Lanka. And Supreme Court had stayed that order. The argument which they had given was like, Ram Setu doesn't exist. It is a mythical thing. It's a mythical notion. And they went farther beyond that. They had said that Lord Krishna and Lord Rama are mythological figures.
Yes.
They are not historical figures as such. But I want to ask in one question out here is like similar was the notion in relation to Dwarka. You know, like everyone in the past used to say that Dwarka is a mythical city.
Yes.
But after the discovery of the Bhet Dwarka, you know, which is under the Arabian Sea, you know, like things have been proved. And the carbon dating of the rocks and the walls of Bhet Dwarka has proved that it is around 11,000 to 15,000 years old.
So what you're saying is this should finally end the debate. Okay,
yes, I think they should end the debate and they should accept that they had gone wrong.
Okay, the Congress decided to not participate in this debate. We would have loved to have their side as well and pose these questions to them as well as to why the Congress, which was far more clear in its stance, which was a very anti-Ram Setu stance, why is it more ambivalent today? Why did it decide to take a U-turn on its earlier stance? But as I said, I'm afraid Congress decided to duck these questions. Let me now, in fact, before I go back to Prerna Malhotra, I want to take a question to the historian who's with Rishika on her panel, Professor Vipul Singh. Rishika, if you can hear me, the question I want to ask him is that does this conclusively end the debate once and for all? Can we move forward now? Has the debate ended as far as Ram Setu is concerned?
Okay, there's an interesting question that's come in from the newsroom, and I want to take it to the historian who's with us in the panel. Does this history, does this documentary evidence that's come out today, does it in any way historically conclude this entire debate? Does it rest the debate once and for all, or does it just spark a fresh new debate?
No, it's a fresh new debate. I mean, it will come up again because, that's good thing about Indian society, Indian civilization. Nietzsche once said that only the beasts do not have histories. So, I mean, Indian civilization at least has such vibrant history. And the history in that sense becomes all the more interesting.
Right.
Now, there will be more debate because if you were suggesting that this stone structure belongs to 7,000 years ago, then there will be a question that the description that is given in the Ramayana, does it belong to 7,000 years ago?